Carmentary, coming at you. I had a comment the other day. Someone was requesting a talk about snowboard bindings that are preferred by the SnowSurfers here in Hokkaido or Japan, I guess, and maybe some reasons why, etc. So let's see if we can get into that a little bit. A bit of a deep dive into the preferences of Japanese or Japan-based snow surfers and the bindings they like to use. Okay, so what I've seen, the bindings that seem to be most prominently featured, Karakoram is very popular, especially in the Niseko area, due to a bit of a sort of a relationship with the Genten snow stick brand. I believe they were selling them, or I think they still are selling them. Splitboard bindings, I guess, is what they were developed for, but the fact that you have the plate that goes on the board and then you can just take off the binding, and if you have multiple plates on multiple boards, you can just switch your bindings very quickly without having to unscrew them, screw them back in and all that. So you just have the base plate, I guess it's called, on. And this is kind of because a lot of people in Japan, a lot of the snow surfer kind of guys, they have a lot of boards. They generally have a bit of a quiver in the car or in the house, and they will choose the right board for the day, for the condition, for the mountain, for the line, whatever. And you just want to be able to change your bindings over really quick. And since bindings are actually now quite expensive, you don't want to just keep buying bindings. It's kind of what I do, though. I just keep buying bindings. Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. So Karakoram is quite popular. The negative side of that, a lot of people complain about, there's a lot of parts, a lot of little screws and bolts and things. I've never really used them personally. It did seem like a bit of a mission, and if you lose a screw or something comes out, you're kind of screwed. Pun intended. And they're metal, so I don't know, but let's just say that you see a lot of them. Quite popular. Next, we have the spark bindings, also again originally designed for split boarding. But similar situation in that, oh, hold on, we got an ambulance coming. I'm on my way down from the mountain, so I think somebody must have gotten injured. Ugh. Hope they're all right there. So, spark bindings, also used for the split boarding, but again, similar situation where if you have the base pucks on your different boards, you can just slide the spark binding on, take it off, put it on another board, etc. Very quick, very easy, very smooth. And the binding itself, the spark bindings are quite expensive. But if you just need one, and then you just need to get the pucks for your other boards. So that, I also see a lot of people using those. That you have a metal base and metal heel cup with a plastic high back. They're good. I have a pair for split boarding. I never use them for normal boards. I use my sparks only for split boarding. I'm not a big fan of the metal bindings. That's why. Now we'll get into that in a minute too. Now, you also see a lot of Solomon bindings here in Hokkaido, especially. A lot of Solomon bindings. They have been really working hard in pushing the Solomon bindings, promoting them. They do, here in Hokkaido, Solomon does quite a few test ride events, and they even do them with other brands like Genten or other more snow surf Japan brands. They'll just bring their bindings and they'll set them all up, and they'll let people ride the bindings on the Genten boards or other board, whatever, their own board or whatever. You also have riders like Nakai Takaharu, who is a famous Japanese snowboarder, rides for Solomon, and he actually, I think, was involved in the development of, I don't know what the binding name is, but it's the one with a very minimal, flat, like rubber sole. No can't on the toe. A lot of bindings have an upward curve on the toe piece, and that has been there for decades now, I guess, in snowboarding. And it's to get a little extra responsiveness on the toe side turn. When you push down, if you've got a little angle underneath your toe, the thinking is that you get more of a response, more power, more leverage. So they took that off. They went full flat. Basically, the concept was like a surfboard. There's no angle underneath your foot on a surfboard, and everybody surfs just fine. So why can't we have that on a snowboard? I believe that was the thinking. The heel cup on those bindings is also very, very soft. It's plastic, and it's got like a little wire running around it for some kind of stability, but you can squeeze it. It's nice to hold. I have two pairs. The first pair was like a white and green one with a bit of a camouflage color, and the high backs were also very, very soft. Those were quite popular. I saw a lot of people riding them after they came out. Maybe that was like 2 years ago or something. They have another version with the same heel cup and the same base plate, but the high back is stiffer. I have that one as well. Like I said, I just keep buying bindings. I don't know, even after 35 years of snowboarding, I still like to really try different equipment, different combinations, and see what works. And if there's some new thing that comes out that people are talking about, I'm like, I gotta try it. You know, I'm never really completely satisfied. And over time, you get new boots or something changes, and then it kind of, you know, everything, once one item changes, it kind of changes everything. And you're like, okay, Mel, maybe now it's the bindings that aren't working so good, so I gotta try some new bindings. Anyway, I tried those bindings, the Salomon bindings. Here's, now those are kind of the majors. Karakoram, Spark, in Japan, Salomon, and then maybe Flux. Flux is also quite popular. I would say more with like the freestyle crew rather than the snow surf crew, but they're there. Union, you also see a bit of Union. Ride, a bit of Ride. There's a little bit of everything out there. But for the snow surfers, I think maybe it's more about a brand image thing. But Salomon seems to be able to kind of have a brand image that fits in with a lot of people, both freestylers and more like real snow surfer guys. But brands like Ride and Union and yeah, those brands, they just seem to have a more street or freestyle kind of image, and the older snow surfer dudes don't seem to choose those bindings as much. That's kind of the feeling I get. Now, let's talk about what's good and what's bad. Now, these are all just personal opinions, of course. Could be totally different from you. But this is my personal thinking, plus stuff I've heard from professional riders and really good people over the years. And I think the main point that I'd like to get across, and that I think everyone should understand, and I heard this from Andy. Andy is a famous Japanese rider. He rides for Ride, and I've shot with him a lot, known him many, many years, and he can do everything. He skates, he does BMX, he's a freestyler, he's super talented, he knows incredible board control, so I really trust his opinion too. And he said something really interesting. His theory is that you need to have one part of your setup be stiff, or to have some stiffness. So these days, like soft snowboard boots are pretty soft to begin with compared to like a ski boot, but a lot of snowboard boots can be like really stiff. I am very anti-stiff boot, and most snow surfers will ride a soft boot. The K2 TT, designed by Tamai Taro of Genten, is a high-end, high-quality, soft flex boot. That is their concept with that boot. It's not cheap. It's made with high-quality materials, leather, all the good stuff in there, BOA. But it's a really got that great flex at the ankle, so you can really, you know, get in on your turns, which is great. But what I've found is that if you put a really soft boot with a really soft binding, it's only really going to be good, reliable, comfortable, and responsive in soft powder. So as soon as you get on the groomed runs, the packed runs, or anything bumpy, choppy, etc., high speed, rough conditions, it's going to be rough. It's going to be too soft. You're going to have to provide the stiffness with your body. Your bones and your muscles and your ligaments are all going to have to cover for the softness of your equipment. So Andy's concept of having like one item in that combination there to be stiff and give you responsiveness kind of made sense, and I took that to heart, and I've kind of changed my setup a little bit this year. I was using exactly that, the K2 TT boots with the really soft Solomon bindings, and like I said, really good in the powder. When you get on the course, or when you ride a really wide board. Now this is something else to consider. There's a board, there's bindings, and then there's your boots. Those are your three hard gear items that you have to combine together, ride down the mountain. So it also does depend a lot on the board you ride. So the Genten, like the Big Fish or Superfish or Cloudliner, you know, all those kind of really big wide boards, they require a lot of power to go edge to edge in rough conditions. When you're in deep powder, you're floating, man. You're just floating through powder. It's just like surfing. You can use your body weight, you know, lean in on the toe, your shoulders. You're creating, you know, what do you, I can't even think of the word. You're making those turns with your body and your body weight. Different scenario when you're on hard pack, choppy conditions, etc. You've really got to use your ankles, your shins. You're pushing down, you're pulling up, you're doing a lot of extra stuff, and that's where your boots and your bindings really come into play. And to put a really wide board way up on its heel edge and really carve, same with the toe edge, you need some support there, or you're going to be doing it all with your physical body. So I don't want to blame it on my equipment and say this thing wasn't good and I got hurt, but at the end of last season, I did start to really get some pain in my left heel, and I think it was at the end of the season. I did some split boarding, and it was one of those really rough, hard runouts, and a lot of heel side traversing, and I was on my spark bindings, metal bindings with a soft high back, and maybe I didn't have the forward lean set right, etc. Anyway, that day my heel started hurting, and it kind of hurt pretty much after that. I'm working on it right now. I'm getting it better. I'm doing some rehab. It's all good. But that got me thinking about my equipment again, and I've changed my setup. So I've gone back to, this will be my last binding recommendation, Now bindings. I used Now bindings for quite a few years, and I like the Now bindings. JF Pelchat, the founder of Now bindings, I believe, legendary Canadian snowboarder who I've hung out with a bit here and there. Great guy. Now bindings are plastic. They've got that, what do they call it? Like something like rubber skate technology or something. They've got these little rubber cushions, like bushings, underneath the four contact points of the binding. That is a great product just for anything, but it's really good for use on boards like the Genten boards and field earth boards. The reason being, well, I've seen this a lot. If you, with the Now bindings, you've got the rubber under there, and if you do like really hard heel side turns, like a lot of people do now, like snowboarding is all about like these crazy deep, you know, carving turns, toe side, heel side, you're putting a lot of G-force down through your high back into the corner below your heel cup there. And a lot of people get dents on the top sheet of their snowboards from the binding, like being pushed into the board with that much force. The now bindings have that little rubber under there, no problem. So that is, I think, one of the great things about the now bindings. It's also supposed to take a lot of the vibration out and be kind of a softer little flex. You got a little piece of rubber between you, the plastic binding, and the board. So yeah, it does make sense. They have a variety of binding styles. The IPO, what is it called? The Brigade. There's a couple. A little lower high back, higher high back, stiffer. They've got all different kinds. My thought now is that I like, and I think a lot of the snow surfers like, a plastic binding, all plastic construction. No metal under there. Metal's cold, metal's hard, metal's very stiff. I think the plastic gives that just the right amount of firmness, but yet it's nice to the touch. Those little thin aluminum heel cups when you're holding them and hiking around, I don't know, I just never have been into it. But the high back, that's kind of the key. That's where you want to find that right stiffness for you. I think that's where the key, you should really look carefully maybe first at the high back. Whether it's a metal binding that you like or whatever your base binding is, but really focus on how soft or how hard, how high, how low. Obviously higher and harder is going to be really stiff. So maybe, yeah, you got to work that out, but it depends on your boots, depends on the length of your leg as well. There's a lot of variables, so I don't want to speak exactly, but that's what I would really focus on. What kind of a high back? I don't think you're going to change your boots that often. I think you're going to have a set of boots and that's what you're going to use. So the easiest thing to swap out and change is probably going to be the high back. So brands often have different styles, different stiffness of high back that are interchangeable among their different bindings. So maybe you can just go and change your high back or get an extra pair and experiment with that and see what you like. So if we want to kind of wrap it up, there should be one part of your setup that has some good responsiveness and stiffness, and also easy to adjust the forward lean. I think that is also a key thing that some bindings do well and some bindings do not do well. Some bindings, I don't know, you just get stuck, or you have to unscrew something, or I like to change my forward lean quite a bit, depending on the conditions, where you're riding, how fast you plan to go. Some snow surfers, some guys out there will have quite a bit of forward lean on the front foot and very little on the back foot. That is also something I see here. Those are the people who are using that front foot as the instigator of the turn. You know, really, when you want to get on a heel side, if you got a good bit of forward lean, you're going to get a lot more responsiveness. I've also seen the other pattern. Some people like to have no forward lean on the front foot and have more forward lean on the back foot, and those people are doing it with their back foot. So again, that is kind of a personal preference. Generally now, with the Genten boards, the Field Earth boards, the Moss boards, like all these Japanese snow surf boards, people are riding more and more centered, or more and more forward on the board. That's what they're designed to do. Snowboards from 10 or 15 years ago, when you were in the powder, you would have to be way on your back foot, trying to keep your nose up so it doesn't submarine and you go over the handlebars. Now the boards are made and designed to float, to bring that tail up out of the snow. That's when you get speed. You want the tail to come up level with the snow, and you want to be able to then carve through the snow rather than to have to do this. Okay, that's it, folks. That's all I got for today. Hope you enjoyed that. See you in the next one.